Okay, hi, I'm Dave. So anyway, unfortunately, I know more about JIRA 7 than Star Wars Episode 7, but if we have more beer, we can talk about whether or not Luke is Rey's father, but we'll, I guess, talk about JIRA for right now. So JIRA 7, basically the reason why we did JIRA 7, we started planning it maybe in January of 2014, and the kind of the rationale behind JIRA 7 was we recognized that JIRA in 2014 is not the same application that it really was when we launched it in 2003, and that it had grown a lot since it was basically just a bug tracking alternative to Bugzilla. And teams were using it for all different kind of stuff, and if we wanted to allow JIRA to continue growing for another 15 years, we probably needed to do something differently. And really what it came down to is that there were a lot of different types of teams using JIRA, and we needed to give them products that actually suited their needs a little bit more. And previously we had just kind of continued to evolve JIRA, and we would add more and more features that different types. You were using JIRA for this, we'd build a feature for it. You were using JIRA for that, we'd build a feature for that. We were using JIRA for that, we would work with Tempo so that they could build features for it. And we kept adding and adding stuff on to, and eventually, and if you do that for eternity, the product will become so bloated and cluttered that nobody will ever be able to use it for anything. So what we really needed to do was find a way to give software development teams software stuff and IT teams service desk stuff, but not give everybody everything all the time. So we needed a revolution, and that was what JIRA 7 was all about. So just to reiterate, prior to JIRA 7, JIRA 6.4 and below, you had one product, JIRA, and a bunch of add-ons, and they were serving lots of different kinds of teams. The three teams that we've really focused on are software teams, service teams, or IT teams, and business teams. And JIRA 7 was all about building three dedicated products: JIRA Software for software teams, JIRA Service Desk for IT teams, and JIRA Core for business teams. So that's JIRA 7. And the way we kind of implemented this and it's one thing to say we have a product for these different teams, but it's just names, and the way it actually manifests itself is through the project types. So we have JIRA software projects for that. So buying a product basically gives you the ability to get that type of project. And software, JIRA Software gets you software projects which have software features like like boards and backlogs and algebra reports and integrations with our developer tools and other development tools. And then for Service Desk, you get Service Desk projects, get queues and SLAs and IT-specific reports. And then for JIRA Core, with the business projects, we tried to streamline everything. And JIRA Core is really our first product that we built for non-technical and the people who aren't on the software or the IT teams. And so we tried to strip everything down and give you basic project tracking. And so if you have all three products installed, this is what the create project screen looks like. So you get multiple different kinds of blueprints under each project type, but basically the project type is what's going to determine the features that are available in that product. And when you actually get into working in the projects, we kind of started that journey even before 7.0 in JIRA 6.4. So we introduced the project sidebar. So this started in JIRA 6.4 as an optional feature. And basically the idea was to simplify the navigation in JIRA and try to bring, prior to the project sidebar, we have projects in JIRA, but if you wanted to go see the issues in that project, you went to the kind of issues drop down and search for the issues. And if you wanted to see the project overview or the project components or versions, you went to the projects drop down and chose the project. And if you wanted to see the board for the project or the backlog, you had to go to the Agile or drop down and click on that, and then make sure you chose the right board. And what we really wanted was, we knew that software development teams, they really work in one place. They come to the board, they move between the board and the backlog, and you're working generally within one project. So we really wanted to make projects that kind of hub the center of where you work in JIRA, and show somebody that it's easy, and kind of bring all of these contexts, or bring every part of JIRA into one context. And we'll know we have finished this goal when the only kind of menu in JIRA is the projects drop down, and you just choose the project that you work in. The same way in Bitbucket, you go to one repository, and that's the repository that you're working in. Or in HipChat, you go into one room, and that's the room that you're talking in. It's a similar concept, I guess. But we were able to take this and apply it across each of the JIRA products. So in JIRA, this is what a JIRA Software project looks like. And you've got basically your software project sidebar. And it's got all the things that a software development team needs, and it's optimized by landing on the board first, which is the place that software developers spend the most time. But in a Service Desk project, we can show you something different. We can show you it's still issues, it's still a sidebar, but it's the features that are more relevant for a Service Desk agent. And the first thing that's relevant for a Service Desk agent is the queue. And then in JIRA Core, we kind of stripped everything down, and it's much, much simpler. You just have the list of issues and some reports. So you get all the power of the JIRA issues, but we know that most business users don't know what versions or components are, so we took them out of the project. So if you look across everything, you get JIRA Software has the boards, sprints, reports. Service Desk has queues and SLAs, and the customer portal. JIRA Core has simple project tracking. It was really important to us that JIRA Core, the business projects, were available with JIRA Software or JIRA Service Desk License 2. We know that the way JIRA kind of starts off is that a company starts off just buying JIRA software for the software teams, and then people on the other parts of the organization start using it, and you might not want to commit to a second license right away, or you even just the software team wants to track some projects where they don't need versions and components and development tool integration and backlog and everything. They just need a list of issues, and so business projects are available for all of the products. So that's kind of the JIRA 7 part of the talk. I spent more than a year of my life working on it, and so I'm happy to talk about it for all night. And I worked on all the migration and licensing and packaging stuff, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to come grab me after. But I want to, so I said the reason why we did JIRA 7 was so that we could build JIRA software and focus and optimize software projects for software teams, and JIRA Core and optimize business projects for business teams. And so I'm going to try to prove to you that since we released JIRA 7, we've actually done that by showing you some of the new features we've built for software teams. So JIRA software. We want to make software teams awesome. And there are a couple of things we've done since when we released JIRA 7 in October that hopefully will make using JIRA software as a software developer a little bit easier. So this is the default permission scheme for a software project. JIRA has a lot of permissions. I think there are 33 built-in ones. Tempo adds a few more. We add a few more for other stuff. We made it a little bit easier to manage them, recently. So this is what the screen to add a permission to, or give somebody a permission used to look like. So there are 33 permissions and 9 different permission types that you can grant the permissions to. And the screen looks like it was built in 2003, which is because it was built in 2003. So we tried to update it for 2015 anyway. So this is what the screen looks like now. We realized that 99% of permissions are granted to just somebody who can access JIRA software or a certain project role or a group. And so we kind of simplified everything. We let you add multiple permissions at once, remove multiple permissions at once, and it looks a lot nicer. But that's not actually what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about was that I snuck in that we actually added a whole new permission there called Manage Sprints. So Manage Sprints is basically the ability for you to give somebody. It used to be that only the project administrator could create sprints or close sprints or change the start and end dates of sprints, and that's really frustrating because you don't always have the the project administrator is not always the product owner or the development team lead who's in charge of, or just one of the developers on the team who's actually in charge of running the sprints, or just somebody's out sick and you need to the team needs to close the sprint. So it's really frustrating, and it doesn't it's one of those things that just hinders JIRA from being adopted in the company because people can't map JIRA's set of permissions to their organization. So there's not a whole lot to show except for the fact that we fixed that, and now you can give the managed sprints permission. Oh, and if you have ever seen this bug where Bob has his board and you have your board, and you both have a sprint called sprint number 1, and Bob puts one of his issues into your sprint number 1 instead of his sprint number 1, and then you can't close your sprint because you don't have access to Bob's board, and that's really frustrating, and you don't know what's happening, you don't know who Bob is because Bob is a made-up person. Then you can, so we fixed that. There were 678 votes for this issue, and this has been shipped to both JIRA Cloud and JIRA Server in the most recent release. But I'm just getting warmed up. So something even bigger that we've been working on is backlogs for Kanban boards, or as we called it internally, Kanplan. So if you're using JIRA Cloud and you go to your Kanban board now, this is a screen that you'll see. So basically, it's the opportunity to take your existing Kanban board and convert it into a Kanban board with a backlog. So what we do is we basically take whatever your first column is in your Kanban board, and we make that into a backlog. And so basically, your backlog, that first column becomes your backlog, and it looks just like the backlog that we have on a Scrum board, where you get the detail view, you can drag and drop and rearrange and send things to the top or send things into it's basically everything you have in a Scrum board, except instead of having one sprint or multiple sprints at the top, you just have one kind of section which is selected for development. And selected for development, which you can rename, by the way, just becomes the first column on your Kanban board. So that it kind of eliminates the problem that you have where you just have thousands and thousands of issues piling up down here, and it's really hard to find the issue you want, which is down here somewhere, and get it up to the top so you can put it in progress. And in terms of how it works, the nuts and bolts, so you basically can, if you want to configure it later, you can take whichever statuses you want in your workflow and map them into your backlog here. So it's pretty straightforward, but this is one, I think, possibly the most requested feature for in the JIRA Software project. And so 854 votes, and it is in labs right now in JIRA Cloud. So if you have JIRA Cloud, you can get started with it, and it will be coming to the next feature release of JIRA Server, or JIRA Software Server. So the last thing I wanted to talk about for JIRA Software was the detail view, or the Agile detail view, or the issue detail view, or what I think most customers call it, which is this thing. So it's basically, if you don't recognize this screen, so if you're on the backlog or on the board and you click on an issue, this is the sidebar that's on the right-hand side that shows you the details about the issue. But it's really frustrating because you can't, the only fields you can edit are the summary and the estimate and the description, and you can only actually edit the estimate when the sprint hasn't already been started, which I'm reminded of every 2 weeks when I watch Philip try to edit the estimates of issues after he's already started the sprint. And it's really frustrating. It makes designers sad because we use inconsistent patterns in between the regular view issue page and the detail view for editing the exact same field. So we're fixing this also. And I forgot one more thing that sucks. So if you actually do want to edit one of those fields, it's not summary, estimate, or description. You have to click the random set of 3 dots that apparently mean something, and then choose edit, and then you get the edit screen, and then you have to update the field, and then it gets updated, and it takes 5 clicks, and that's really annoying because if you're on the view issue page, it takes 1 click. So we want to make sure everything takes 1 click, so everything's going to be editable just from the detail view. So you can edit your fixed versions. You can edit your and we don't. It's not just editable, but it's using the exact same renderers or UI that you're using on the view issue page. So everything is inherited automatically from view issue. So if you're editing the description, you get the full wiki markup rich editor. You can even drag and drop attachments right onto the issue. If you've ever been really annoyed because the comments are in the opposite order of the comments on the view issue page, we fixed that too. The comments, it's actually better than that, because if you're weird and you actually like the comments in that order, we actually persist the comments in the same order between the view issue page and the detail view. So if you did change the order, you'll get the same order on both. So unless you're really weird and you like them to be different, in which case I don't know what to do. So that's basically it for software teams. So kind of only 3 features, but there are 3 big features that we think are, and it kind of shows like what we're really trying to do, which is we can take, now that we have JIRA Software and we know that software development teams are in software projects, we can double down on software projects and say, okay, this is for a software development team, and we can focus on the features that are really going to make, it's not really about what we can do for what you're doing 10% of the time. It's what you're spending 90% of the time doing in JIRA, which is creating and editing issues, managing stuff in a backlog, managing stuff on a board. And so we can focus on the stuff that will make the biggest difference towards the day-to-day JIRA experience. But I also want to talk about JIRA Core. So JIRA Core is kind of a big step for Atlassian because it's Atlassian's first product that's built specifically for non-technical users. Like we have HipChat and Confluence and JIRA for a long time, and we've seen massive adoption of the products across all kinds of teams: marketing, HR, legal, recruiting. Everybody is using QA, with operations. Everybody uses JIRA, but the JIRA Core is kind of different because it's the first one where we specifically said it's not just for everybody, but it's specifically for the non-technical, non-software teams, and we're going to optimize for them. And so we've taken a lot of steps to simplify, but what we realized after we launched the product was that we thought, okay, we'll provide a list. Like, people love lists of tasks, people like checklists. we can give people a list of all their JIRA issues, and they get to put it through a workflow. They get custom fields, all the power of JIRA. It'll be great. But we kind of underestimated just how much people want a visual way to track their tasks as well. And I, somebody's getting a call. So it seems everybody wants a visual way to track their tasks, and for a lot of organizations, they're trying to get their business teams or non-technical teams to adopt agile methodologies also. So people started asking for a Kanban board pretty quickly in JIRA Core. I think it's not the highest order issue, but it's the most. It has acquired votes faster than any other feature request we've ever gotten, and people really want business teams, but also to have the agile the agile element as well. But the problem is that just simply copying and pasting agile boards into business projects would go against the entire point of doing JIRA 7, which is that we could take software projects and the features in software projects and optimize them for software teams, and then optimize business projects for business teams. And if we were trying to make agile boards work for both non-technical teams and software teams, then every single time we tried to build a feature, like it would be like, well, is this using too technical language for the business team? Oh, we could add a integration in there, but it doesn't make sense for the software development team. It's just extra cruft, and you're making trade-offs. And the whole point was that we wouldn't have to make trade-offs. We could be specific and optimize. So I am sorry to disappoint Rolf and his fondness for spelling application with a K, but instead we went in a different direction and built a whole new kind of board. So these are called JIRA Core boards. We probably should get a better name for them, but they're super simple, super fast, super quick boards. You don't have to. The board in JIRA Core is no longer. It's not a separate concept like agile boards are. You create a project and you have one board for the project, and the board is mapped to the workflow. So if you have, we know that business teams typically have simpler workflows than software development teams. There's not steps like waiting for QA, in QA, approved by QA, waiting for release, like all this stuff. So we can basically just say, okay, you have 4 steps in your workflow, you have 4 columns on your board. You click that little plus sign right there to create a new card. It's kind of weird showing screenshots. I probably could be doing a live demo of this, but if you want a demo of me dragging and dropping stuff, then come see me after and I can show it to you. And so that's basically what we've done, is try to, and we built the whole thing on top of fancy React.js architecture. So while we won't, we want to make sure that the reason why we have 2 different types of boards is that we can optimize the boards for 2 different types of teams, but we're going to do more and more sharing of the technology components underneath so that they all get fancy front-end technologies that people come up with in 2019. So that's what we've been doing for business teams. So JIRA Software, we've got software development features. JIRA Core, we've really only worked on one big thing, which is boards, but it's a thing that we think will make a really big difference for business teams. So JIRA Core boards are in labs right now. So if you have JIRA Cloud, you can go create a project management project, and it'll have a board on it. And we'll be rolling them out to all JIRA Core projects in cloud pretty soon, and then in the next release of JIRA Core and JIRA Software also. Number 1 is performance. We know from our feedback that I think we've made a lot of steps in the right direction, and we're still going to be working on it quite a bit. The other next thing is project administration. So we know that, again, from customer feedback, that setting up and maintaining and administering the projects and dealing with your issue type schemes and your workflow schemes and your screen schemes and your issue type screen schemes and your notification schemes and your permission schemes, your issue security schemes, field configuration schemes. The whole thing is kind of a nightmare. Slowly but surely, we'll try to simplify that part of JIRA. We're working on making it easier to integrate with HipChat and Bitbucket especially, and our other tools. And then, so you're going to see very soon like a new integration between JIRA Software and Bitbucket, where it'll be, instead of having to exchange OAuth tokens or set up an app link or anything like this, it'll just be a one-click between a JIRA project and a Bitbucket repository to integrate, set up the integration. And we're going to be working really hard over the next year after this to integrate with a lot more partners as well. So we've got this new technology called Atlassian Connect that a huge number of our add-on partners are adopting, and the whole point of it is to try to make sure that we have as many great add-ons for JIRA Cloud as we have for JIRA Server as well. Tempo has built a Tempo Planner on top of the Atlassian Connect technology, and we want to bring not just a lot more integrations, but like 10 times as many integrations with all the other cloud services and help them integrate with JIRA as well. And the last one is mobile. So we have officially launched a native JIRA Software mobile app in the App Store at the beginning of February. So if you have, it's only available for JIRA Cloud for right now. So if you have JIRA Cloud, you can go on the App Store and get the official JIRA mobile app. If you have an Android phone, we have an Android team. We are working on it. I have no idea when they're going to have anything, but I expect we'll have an Android beta in the next 6 months or so, and we'll have and it's part of a long-term investment for JIRA. Confluence has had an app since December, so we're making a big investment in making sure that we have not just a okay mobile client, but it's not a team that's going away. It's not just a one-off project to build the mobile app and we're done. It's going to be a big strategic part of Atlassian. We treat mobile the way we would any other. It's like an entire product division at Atlassian. So that's kind of what's coming up for JIRA. I can stick around I've at least got to try the other beer. So I'll be around for a while if you want to come up and ask me questions. But thank you so much for coming out.